Edward Everett, the nationally renowned speaker of his day, the 15th governor of Massachusetts, former ambassador to the court of St. James and Secretary of State, stood on the platform newly constructed in Gettysburg's new battlefield cemetery, adjacent to the existing Evergreen Cemetery on Cemetery Ridge. Just 5 months after the bloody three-day battle, July 1st through 3rd, 1863, where 7,800 plus died, whether they wore blue or gray and butternut, they were all Americans. Both were buried in the new cemetery. There were still wounded in hospitals in Gettysburg and bodies that needed to be buried yet 5 months later. Everett spoke without notes. He spoke for over 2 hours. By all accounts, he was eloquent, if not long-winded. He spoke with a booming voice that could be heard throughout the gathered crowd. When he finished, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, stood from the wooden chair at the back of the 3-step platform. He slowly walked to the front, removing his hat. He retrieved the speech and his spectacles from his inside breast pocket of his black morning coat. He spoke in a normal voice, so that even with the almost 15,000 people in attendance, maybe less than 100 actually heard him. Lincoln spoke for just under 3 minutes. That was all it took to deliver the speech of 272 words. Lincoln had worked on the speech for almost a week, putting the final touches to it from notes he inked on the train to Gettysburg on the back of an envelope. He wasn't that impressed with his speech, and having to follow Everett, the most celebrated speaker of his time, Lincoln felt the little thing would be quickly ignored and forgotten. He couldn't have been more wrong. When Lincoln spoke, where 51,000 men had become casualties, killed, wounded, and missing, he had no idea how important his words would become. No speech in the history of any length could have more feeling and reverence. It proclaimed the longing Lincoln had to end the bloodshed but preserve the Union at any cost. The Civil War would rage until April 1865, another year and a half. Thousands more would die. "407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in the great Civil War, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth,